Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You're very welcome into Code Institute's lunchtime event. My name is Dara Otuma. I'm content manager with Code Institute, and I see the numbers jumping up straight away, and that's fantastic. I'd like to thank you all for joining us here at Code Institute's online open event. I have evening there in the slide, so my apologies about that. Okay, thank you all for coming in. That's a great thing. Now I'm going to be joined in the next couple of minutes by many of my colleagues. There will be Jane Gormley, who's in charge of our career section within Code Institute. We have David Howard, one of our education advisors, and throughout the event, we'll be joined also by Billy Keenan, who's going to be our question master for today. Now, I'm going to address the elephant in the room straight away. You may have noticed I'm actually working from my house, despite the nice branding that you see here behind you. It's because of coronavirus. Now, I'm going to address this at the start because I'm sure we're all a little bit tired of listening to coronavirus news and things like that. So we get it out of the way. It's here. It's affecting work. It's affecting how we're going to work, and it's affecting the work of the future. However, the great news is if we continue washing our hands, if we stay self-isolated, if that's what we've been told to do by our respective governments, etc., if we do all these things, this will pass. We'll be able to carry on with work as per usual, and everything should come back right again, and we're looking forward to that day. Okay, that aside, other housekeeping for today. Please ask as many questions as you can. Billy will join us every 10 minutes or thereabouts and ask some of your questions to us. And as well as that, at the end of the event, we'll be able to address some of those questions as well. Now, before I go ahead, if I could ask you all to check in, tell us whereabouts in the world you are and say hello. We're here, so please say hello to us. We also asked the question, who's familiar with software development? So who has software development skills out there? Let us know what you know. If you know some HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, it gives an idea as to what type of lingo we can use throughout this event itself. Now, I'm going to welcome our other guests into the room. So Jane Gormley, David Howard, if you guys wouldn't mind turning on your cameras and your microphones for us, please.
Hi, Dara.
How are you doing? Listen, I suppose before Jane comes in, and hopefully Jane will turn on the camera in a minute, I have to give one disclaimer. Okay, folks, half of the world is working from home at the moment, which means broadband is getting a lot of pressure put on it. So therefore, if we happen to fall in or fall out, please take my apologies in advance. We'll try our best to keep the networks clear, and we'll try our best to carry on with this interview and with the webinar itself. Our team have spoken in advance, so if, for example, my phone line or my phone line, we're not back in the 1960s. If my broadband happens to fail, David knows to take over from me, and likewise Jane knows to take over from David, and on it goes and on it goes. Jane, thank you very much for coming in. Can we just do a quick microphone check with you there?
Thank you, sorry, I'm good.
Okay, excellent. Listen,
yeah, working.
Everything is working perfectly. Okay, folks, I'm going to start off. Now, this should take in around 40 to 45 minutes or thereabouts. If we go a little bit over, don't worry about it. Hopefully, you'll all be happy enough. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about Code Institute themselves. We're going to give you an introduction as to who we are, a little bit of history about ourselves, why we came together, and why we keep building on the program that we have at the moment. We're also going to talk about the coding industry. Okay, so there's a massive global skills gap. And we're going to talk about the opportunities that are out there for new software developers and existing software developers as well. So we'll get through that, and Jane will bring us through all of that. We're also going to talk about graduate stories. Okay, so we have loads of students, but where do they go and what do they do after the program? And Jane's going to carry on about that. And she's going to let us know as to how her department helps our new software developers land the dream jobs that they have been looking for. After that, of course, David's going to talk through the course itself. We're going to look at what is full stack. We'll look at our learning management system, and we'll look at the way we actually teach the program itself. And then at the end of the event and throughout the event, we will answer your questions and answers. Please keep them questions coming in. Billy will join us every few minutes, and we'll address as many as possible. The other thing as well is throughout the event, you may see a schedule a call button come up on the actual page or video itself. Click on that if you want to talk to one of our education advisors about the application process, finance options, and there are plenty out there. Please don't let money and things like that get in the way. We'll talk about those things as well. Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm going to stop talking for a moment. David, it's time for you to take the mic. Could you tell us a little bit about Code Institute and who we are, please?
Yeah, absolutely, Dara. Thanks very much. So I will go ahead and just kind of work through these one by one on the screen here at the moment. As you can see, we were founded in 2015. So we've been around for coming into halfway through our fifth year here at the moment. And we are very much a global education provider. This really means a couple of different things. So first of all, the actual skill set that our students and our graduates are gaining and the opportunities that are available to them are absolutely in demand worldwide. So regardless of if you're doing your training in the Netherlands and Sweden and Belgium, wherever you might find yourselves, the actual skills that you're gaining and acquiring, they will be in demand wherever you might be in the future. And with that, because we are an online and remote provider, we also have a student body that is located globally, as well as our support systems are in place globally as well, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the event today. So moving on there, we are a university credit rated bootcamp. We are the only online bootcamp in Europe for coding that has that university credit rating. So this can be really, really nice when you're looking at courses from an academic perspective, because we do tick that box. But very much so, we are focused on the industry side and the career side of everything. So we're industry led. The IAC there, that stands for Industry Advisory Council. This is a group of companies. It includes the likes of Salesforce, Capgemini, PayPal, and others. And we meet with them regularly to ensure that the skills that our graduates are gaining are what is actually in demand in the industry today, because we're focusing on the career and we're focusing on those job opportunities. And the way that we're doing this is, first of all, through our work with the industry, but even the way that we actually teach the course is through what we call portfolio-led training. So although we have that academic recognition, this is not about reading books and studying theory and taking an exam to get a piece of paper. While you're studying at Code Institute, you will be completing a series of projects. And these projects are extremely important because they become your portfolio. So when you graduate, not only do you have the diploma and the industry recognition, you have a portfolio of actual work that you're able to show potential employers as well.
And one of the great things about that portfolio, David, and me and you talk about this quite a lot. We do a lot of these events, likewise with Jane as well. That portfolio is massively important. So imagine you're a new software developer. Effectively, that portfolio is your experience or work experience when you go into a new employer and you're able to say, look how great I am at design. Look how great I am at problem solving. Look how great I am at software development. And you're able to show off your wares. And they're 4 professional grade projects that you work on. And it's really good to have, especially if you're starting out as a software developer. The other thing I want to mention as well, apart from the fact that we're Europe's only university accredited coding bootcamp in an online fashion, the fact that we're industry led. So instead of actually just making up a software development program, first off, we went out and we got a university to look at it and say, do you know what you're teaching makes sense? And they credit rated. But the fact that we went out to industry in advance and said, guys, what's needed within industry right now? What is it that you guys need? And they advised us, and that's part of our program, which means everything that we teach is actually relevant as well. Jane, I'm going to bring you in now, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So we're witnessing a massive global skills gap. Okay, and in fact, we're witnessing right now the world changing in terms of work and everything else like that. But could you tell us more about the skills gap itself? And I suppose one of the questions I'd ask you is it a dilemma or is it an opportunity?
Well, in some ways, it's both. In every dilemma, there's an opportunity, which is really, really positive. So that look, there's some of the numbers on the slide there, just to explain. The European Commission have estimated, based on really solid data, that there's in excess of 750,000 unfilled jobs now, like right now, which is rapidly increasing all the time. There are huge amounts of reasons for this, but one of the most obvious ones is that just the speed with which technology is advancing and changing and creating is, just multiplying what it is that people need to understand. And it's also providing amazing entries for new workers in the ICT sector to catch up to speed with this, and also never to be left behind, because there are always new things being learned and demonstrated. So this is what we're seeing. Yeah, there's a huge demand for the tech workers in the ICT sector, and it's attracting all sorts of different people with totally different backgrounds, which is really great to see too.
I imagine that. Could you give us an idea, Jane? Okay, so you deal with students. Well, I tell you what. Could you give us a rounded picture as to what it is that your department does within Code Institute, and then maybe could you give us a few examples as to how you actually work?
Yeah, of course. So I head up the careers area. My own background is all in recruitment in the tech and the commercial sector. So our responsibilities are twofold. One is that we are kind of hand in hand with multiple hiring partners. So we have a growing portfolio of tech clients who directly engage with our students, and to hire them on completion or near completion of the course. At the moment, we have probably in excess of about 150 hiring partners all over the globe. But more importantly, I suppose, to people thinking about entering this sector, what we do to help starts from day one. I would imagine that many people listening today or joining us here are interested in this for a career change or for an upskilling sort of purpose. So look, the career piece is really important from day one. And we work with you quite closely on various channels through the business. So we work very closely with people on Slack. We have really tight updates. We have traditionally done quite a lot of face-to-face meetings, but that's changed a little this week. But we give loads of support around practical stuff on how you want to approach your job search, because everyone has slightly different ideas of what they want, and also will have different skills that they're bringing to it, which they want to bring with them. It really ramps up after your second milestone project. And the reason being is that we feel that people are much more confident going out to interview and start deciding which areas they want to work in once they've got a bit more information under their belt. And then at that point, we're working very tightly with people. We have on the LMS, which is the learning platform, we have a whole career section. We have podcasts that we would release fortnightly, which are really practical, industry-led information. And we work with people on their own social platforms and interviewing skills, both technical and non-technical. And then also kind of post interview, our relationship doesn't end then. We have a really tight alumni. So as people go out into the world, we help them through their onboarding as well, and different choices they may make beyond that.
Okay, Jane. So I've got to ask you, right? In recent weeks now, I for anyone, here's a plug for Jane. Hop onto LinkedIn, follow Jane Gormley, and you get to see how she's actually working with students. Because I know even today, for example, you posted about a new student who's found her first career, or a student who hasn't even graduated yet, if I'm not mistaken.
It's actually, it was her second role already. So she was really smart. She had, during the course, she got a sort of an internship, like part-time role in a tech environment, and it positioned her really well. So she's just been hired as a Python developer in the area of the UK that she lives in, and she hasn't graduated yet. So she's a kind of a shining star.
And this is amazing. But could you give us some examples? Okay. So we'll take for example, and again, I'm not trying to go into the coronavirus thing, but remote working is hugely important. Have you any examples as to, I suppose, how you've helped somebody land a role where remote working? Because remember, our students learn remotely, they learn online, they're learning these skills of collaboration and working independently. Have you found that to be helpful, and have you any examples as to where you've actually, I suppose, helped one of our students get a job that's suited for remote working?
Yeah, of course. And look, I suppose for people who are moving into the industry, if anyone's listening today from a really different sector, and some of the terminology in tech can be a little bit intimidating, but remote working is obviously something that's really well suited to the tech industry. It doesn't mean that every single company hires on remote options, but it does mean that it offers way more flexibility. And if you're training remotely, they're near identical skills to working remotely. So it's something actually that we've been doing a lot with our students, for those of whom who have wanted to work remotely. So yeah, look, I mean, one of the companies that we've been working quite closely with has been Shopify, and they would hire not the 100% remote, but here in Ireland, they have a really significant amount of remote workers, and they're really well set up for it. So they love the profiles, and some of our students are working with them in like really great kind of tech support type roles, in that it's about 50% coding and 50% client focused. So it's nice to think as well that their previous experience, a lot of them came from hospitality, or a kind of a front-facing client services type role, but they really want to work in tech, but they didn't want to leave the human element completely behind. So, it is important to remember that not all tech is disruptive. There are companies whom you might not associate with technology, but have a big need for people with those hard digital skills. And this is a whole new space, which is becoming increasingly attractive for a lot of the students that we'd be working with.
This is it. Now, I'm going to introduce Billy Keenan. Billy, could I ask you to turn on your mic and your camera there, please? I've kept you in the dark for long enough. I think it's time to introduce you to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you all to Billy Keenan. Billy Keenan is also an education advisor with Code Institute, an all-round legend. But Billy, I suppose you're dealing with questions, etc., that are coming in. Have you had any questions at all that you'd like to bring up to the panel?
Yeah, of course, Dara. Firstly, thanks for joining, everyone. It's great to have so many people here. We've got people from France, Denmark, Norway, a few from Italy. We have a couple from Ireland as well. So people from lots of different countries, which is great. One of the questions that we've gotten so far is something like Jane, you said, is do you need any experience before joining the course in coding?
No. What you will need, well, many of the people that I'm placing, this is their first experience of working in code. I think there are competencies and applications that you're going to need to apply. Now, I wouldn't say that this course is easy peasy, but it is absolutely doable. And many people have passed through it in much faster times than they would have maybe expected, but you don't need the experience. Like, that's what this course is about, is to give you those skills.
Yeah, that's fantastic. No, Jane, that's great. Something else people are saying, as you said, there's a lot of people saying they've been working in retail, so that's really good for them to know. Yeah. And Dave, maybe one for you. Someone's asking, is there an age limit to the course?
There is no maximum age limit, Billy, at all, certainly. It is a course that is designed very much for more mature students. It's adult education. We're working quite exclusively and specifically with people who are looking to upskill and, leverage their previous experiences, or oftentimes a full career change. So you do need to be over the age of 18. Our average ages are probably 30, give or take, mid to early 30s. We have also had students in their 40s, 50s, and every once in a while a student in their 60s as well.
So just on that, we had a really nice story last week where one of our more mature students was placed into a whole new role, and he celebrated his 63rd birthday today, and this was his first role in tech.
Well, so, happy birthday to that person.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, he was thrilled.
That's amazing. Billy, can I hold you off for a few minutes? We'll move on to the actual to the course itself, and then I'll bring it back in a couple of minutes' time with more questions. I'm sure there's loads coming in, and to you at home, please keep sending them in. You're here for a reason. We want to address those questions, if that's all right. Dave, I'm going to bring it back to you for a moment, and I suppose everyone's going to see you soon, Billy. Everyone's going to give you a chance to, exercise those vocal cords while I stay quiet. Dave stays quiet for a while. Could you tell? Okay, so everyone who's come on to the webinar today is possibly new to software development. Maybe some of you have done the 5-day coding challenge, which we'll talk about later on. But our program it's for beginners and also for people with some experience. But assume that everyone has no knowledge. Could you tell us what is full stack?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an important thing to know, because that is exactly what we teach. So our course is a diploma in software development, and the way that we teach that is through what is called full stack web applications. So that is all cloud-based web technology. So when you're looking at the full stack or the full technology stack, it can really be broken down into front-end development, back-end development, and then certain elements of dealing with data and databases as well. So as you can see on the screen at the moment, full stack has front end, back end, and the database. So the best way to kind of explain this is possibly just an example. The one I usually like to use is Amazon. So if you are a user and you are on Amazon and you're doing some shopping, what you're interacting with is the front end. The data is presented. So that is everything that is on the screen that the user is actually interacting with. If you think of the stock that Amazon has, which is just sitting there somewhere behind the screen, that's the database, their inventory. So it's just sitting there, it's data at rest. The back end then is the data in motion. So that is when the user is interacting with what's on the screen and pulling that information from the database so it's being manipulated and presented in a meaningful way. So that's the back end development and data in motion. And those three things are largely what comprise full stack development.
Okay, thanks for that, David. That's nicely put. Okay, moving on from that. Okay, so we mentioned a little bit earlier on, we spoke about portfolio. So students on Code Institute's program, and I know this isn't what the only thing you're going to talk about now, but students on our program have to do 4 major projects. And we learn by doing. There's no exam stress at the end or anything like that. You just work on your projects and you do them so well. You have to work really hard on those and work well enough. But could you bring us through, I suppose, what people will learn on the course, and then if you could kind of give a take as to where they're going to be doing the projects as well, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, you can see 5 things on the screen here. So 4 of them are your main milestone projects. As we were actually just talking about, though, this course is designed for people who are new to coding or have very little or sometimes no experience in development. So what we're going to be starting off with is the coding fundamentals. So you can see on that first tile, there's 4 main languages. That's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Python. We will send everybody a list of the full curriculum, but these are the 4 core languages that we're going to be working with. And we're going to start you off with the fundamentals and get that foundation in before you start working on your milestone projects. Once you've completed those fundamental modules, you will then move into the first milestone project, which is user-centric front-end development. So you will be building an actual application, largely working with front-end development and front-end languages. And this is really to understand, I suppose, the aesthetics, the way that applications can look and can feel. So you're using HTML, which is the structure of the application that you're building. And then you're adding in a language called CSS, which is the style of it. So we'll actually task you with building a project that is personal to you. You can see this particular project, somebody chose to base it on a musician, and you'll actually be creating this application based on something of interest. You will be using other little frameworks, things like Bootstrap, to make it responsive on tablets and mobile devices, but this will be the first project in your portfolio. Once you complete that one, you're going to then move into interactive front-end development. So we're still in front-end development, but we're adding a very important language called JavaScript. JavaScript is what allows the user to then not only view your application, but actually interact with it. So you're going to be learning things like APIs, which is where you integrate your application with existing software. The example we have on the screen is perfect. It's showing a Google map. So somebody actually built an application and integrated Google Maps into that through what we call APIs. JavaScript is then what allows the user to interact. So if you have drop downs or menus or things that change on the screen, this is all JavaScript that's doing that. So these are going to be the first 2 main components, and both in front-end development, and you will constantly be reinforcing what you've already learned. So even on that second project, you're still going to use HTML, you're still going to use CSS and Bootstrap, but now we're adding in JavaScript. Once you complete those, then we're going to move into the back end. So you can see the next project there is data-centric development. So this is where we really start to use Python, which is a very, very powerful language when it comes to data. It's not used only in web applications, but also things like the video game industry. It contributes to the technology for blockchain, for cryptocurrency, machine learning, artificial intelligence, all sorts of really, really cool things. So we're going to be learning about data. You're going to be learning SQL databases. That's Microsoft SQL, which is, again, one of the most important databases to really have familiarity with today. And you're going to be using another technique or a tool called MongoDB, which is for NoSQL, so unstructured data. What we're really going to be teaching you here is how to take large amounts of data, make it understandable for somebody who's actually using the applications that you built. And then once you move beyond that, the fourth and sorry, Dar, go ahead.
I'm going to hold you there for a second. I'm going to ask Jane to turn off her camera, and I'm going to do the same so people can
you can see it. Sure. Perfect. Yeah. So the next one there, guys, is your, I guess, what we would call the showstopper. So that is your full stack frameworks with Django. So Python is the language. Django is the framework that we use for full stack development. And this project will incorporate everything that you learned all the way from the very beginning of the course right up until the very end. You're going to be learning about actually deploying your applications. You're going to be learning about website security, integrating with payment systems. That's where you can see Stripe there, AWS, so that's for Amazon Web Services and hosting. Travis is a tool that you're going to be using for essentially quality checking and debugging your software. So at the end of this, you will have the ability to complete entire web applications from start to finish. And most importantly, you'll have that portfolio of 4 working projects as well.
Okay, thanks a million for that, David. And our big heads, or well, my big head was out the way there for a moment, which is a great thing. Okay, we're going to send a copy of this slide deck to everyone who's attended today. And once again, I'd like to thank everyone who has attended today. The numbers are great. Please keep those questions coming in. I'm going to call Billy in a second, just after we talk about the supports that are available. Then I'm sure there's going to be more questions from Billy. But everyone's going to get a copy of this slide deck itself. And effectively what David broke down there, this is just a page here that highlights, I suppose, all of the languages and all of the technologies that you will learn throughout the Code Institute program. Okay, let's talk about the LMS itself, David. How is this, first off, how is this delivered?
Yeah, so that's one really important thing to note is that this is a fully online remote qualification. So hopefully everybody is aware of that now. But as we'll talk about shortly, there's a great deal of structure and support. So our LMS, our learning management system, it's a very, very robust online platform, similar to what you might think of as a bit of a virtual classroom. It is something that was originally built by Harvard and MIT in the United States and has then been repurposed for Code Institute for our uses and our students. And essentially what you're doing is going through what we call contextualized or modularized learning, where you're watching lessons, you're watching videos, but right away you're actually going to be practically coding and putting the information that you're learning into use as you go through all of the course content. And what's really important is with everything, you're going to be learning what something is, how we use it, and then actually putting it into practice and using that. It isn't something where you're sitting there watching lectures for 2 hours. It is all done in bite-sized chunks to keep really kind of the motivation flowing and to keep you coding throughout the entire experience.
Okay, I'm going to mention the 5-day coding challenge now, even though we will talk about it properly later on.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume some of our viewers or listeners are currently on it, and therefore today is Thursday, which means you're on day 4 of the program. See the way I work maths out so quickly? But for those of you who are on it, you've got a taste as to what our actual learning management system, or LMS, looks and feels like. So my advice to everyone later on will be do the 5-day coding challenge or all access version of that. But we'll talk about that in depth a little bit later on. Okay, let's talk about the support systems. Then Jane, you're going to cover career here, and then I'm going to introduce Billy back in for a few questions. So David, okay, I personally think one of the many things that sets us apart from the rest is our support. I think our support's amazing, and I'm very proud to say that, and I really, really believe in what I'm saying. But could you tell us what support is there to help students and to help guide students from the start to the end of this program?
Absolutely, and I'll work through the first 4 of the pillars there, and then certainly the career one to Jane. So student care is the first people that you'll actually be speaking with as your first day as a student at Code Institute. They are really kind of the backbone and the administrators of the day-to-day interactions with our students. So student care is in charge of everything that's non-technical with you. So they will be there to help keep you on track with your pace through the course, talk to you about the submission of projects and deadlines that you have, anything revolving around your schedule, or sometimes it could just be something motivational. You know, if they see that you're getting stuck on something, they might be reaching out to you to understand what additional support we can have in place. They're really there to be your champions and keep you going through the course and help with anything that might come up. The next one is actually going to be the tutoring team. So tutors are a bit different. They are there to answer your day-to-day technical queries. So our tutors are our in-house developers, and their full role is to support our students through the course and gaining the diploma and completing the qualification. This is Dara on what you just said about how amazing our support is. Our tutoring team is available to our students 24 hours a day, Monday to Friday, because as we talked about earlier, we are a global presence, so we have tutors in every time zone, and they're also available for 8 hours European time on Saturday and Sunday. So anytime that you're having day-to-day technical questions, you'll be speaking with the tutor, usually through chat within a couple of minutes of reaching out to them. And they're not going to give you answers. They're not there to hold your hand. They're there to challenge you and support you and help prepare you for what working as part of a development team is really going to be like. But that support is always there. In addition to the day-to-day technical support from the tutoring team, each of our students will be paired off or assigned with a one-to-one mentor who is actually in the software development industry, so not a Code Institute full-time employee. The mentor is there to offer very specific, structured, and focused guidance around the creation of your portfolio and the building of those projects. So you'll have 3 sessions with your mentor for each of the 4 projects. And the reason why we use mentors from the industry is because they are in the best position to make sure that the portfolio that you are building is what's actually trending and what's actually in demand in the industry today. So they will be there to offer that guidance. And then the last one that I'll talk about today is our community, which is absolutely fantastic. We operate a very, very in-depth community through a platform called Slack. For anybody who's not aware of Slack, it's really kind of a tool that's actually used by developers in the real world today, especially for project managers who might be working with remote development teams. So the best way to think of it is a bit of a forum where there are channels dedicated to every aspect of the course, as well as things like local meetups, networking, job searches, and we have around, I believe, 2,000 active members on there at the moment. This includes current students, graduates, facilitators, tutors, and it's just a really vibrant community where you can talk about everything and anything on the course, and that is, of course, 24/7 as well.
I particularly love Slack is an amazing thing, and I suppose anyone who's currently working remotely is probably starting to learn more about the likes of, let's say, Google Hangouts, Slack, Trello, Zoom, all these different things. I find Slack to be amazing. It's a great way for us to keep in touch with the Code Institute team. But the fact that all of our students, and even our 5-day coding challenge students, they're involved in it as well. It's amazing. It's a great place to collaborate, work together, ask your peers questions to get them to help you through the program, and vice versa, help people too, because helping people is a great way to actually learn. Now, Jane, I'm going to bring you back in, right? I'd say the vast majority of people here at the moment are contemplating a career change or contemplating upskilling for their current job. Well, when it comes to career change, one of the main reasons why they're here is because they're thinking, I want to be a software developer. How do we support when it comes to career?
Yeah. So the career, just to be really clear, it's a really big part of this from day one. So what we do in the early parts of your time through the course is to get you really prepared for what you want out of your career move. So we do that via Slack, which we've mentioned a couple of times. We have the community, the careers community, which gives constant information between all of us. Also, your peers will be a really good source of it. But once we reach the second milestone project, those who opt into our career support services, it's a starting point then, I guess, for a more personalized way of managing your preparation to move into a tech career. So it starts off with really practical stuff around CV writing, your LinkedIn, your GitHub, it kind of cover letters, but more how to present yourself, how to talk about yourself. Then there's networking, which is like in-house and also online. So how to get involved in the areas that you're based in Europe. So I mean, we were in Stockholm last week. We were in London the week before. It's an ongoing situation as to how to get you involved in a local tech community as well as our tech community, so that you can start building some knowledge and some network there. Our technical team will take control over your technical interview preparation skills. And one thing I would say is that all tech companies hire differently. So our insider knowledge here will be able to give you really good support no matter where you're interviewing. And then all the way through that, when you are interviewing, we're here to give you some support, guidance, information, preparation, and mock interviews. I mean, whatever way your search is going, we're here to support it. And then we also obviously have a back catalogue of content, which you can dip in and out of at any time.
Sorry, Jane, your audio went ever so slightly jumpy there. So you accidentally said the word data, so we can take it from there on.
Okay, yeah. What I meant to say was that we have a back catalogue of content, and that content means that no matter what time of the month or the day or the year that you decide you want to access it, you can either get a consultant to help you, or you can dip into the the webinars and the podcasts and the video content that we have around whatever area you're trying to perfect.
That's brilliant. Okay, Jane, I'm going to bring Billy back in. Billy, if you're still with us, if you could turn on your mic and your camera again.
I'm here.
How are you?
I'm good. We're getting
Could you tell
loads of
us
questions in.
Okay, so do you want to just throw some of them at us? I will stop you again after maybe 3. Then we'll finish off the event itself, and then we'll get to loads of questions from you. Go for it.
Okay. If we're only going through 3, then Dara, I might just focus on the ones that you're going to cover. You'll cover later. Leave those to later. One person is asking, can we start the course at any time, or is there an academic year?
Yep, I can take that one, Billy. So that's something we will chat about here in a moment. We do have 2 different options, both full-time as well as part-time. One of them has quarterly enrollment, so that's very, I suppose, set dates where students are beginning. But our more popular flexible course option, we have new enrollments every week, every Tuesday, so very flexible as to when you begin your studies.
Brilliant. So that's great. Someone else is asking, and Dave, I know you covered it, so maybe just reiterate, when do students take their exams, or are there exams?
Yeah, so again, absolutely, Billy, there are no exams on the course. So the actual assessment for the diploma will be based on the successful completion of those 4 projects, and the due dates and the time frame of those will be discussed with student care based on everybody's individual progress through the course. But no exams, no cramming book study or anything like that.
Good to know. Maybe just one last one that I can answer really quickly. Fabrice is asking, are there any differences in the support between our full-time and part-time course? But Dave, I know you're going to talk about that in a few minutes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Billy,
I'll go into that in a little bit of detail.
Billy, thank you very much. We're going to call you back in a couple of minutes. We'll fly through the last few slides, and then you can throw all your questions at us, and hopefully everyone will leave here happy. So I'm going to move. Thanks, Billy. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one here. Okay, I'm going to give a quick, I suppose, roundup of what Code Institute is there to do. We're there to help people transition. If you want to change career, or if you want to upskill for your current career, we are there to help you become industry ready. Now, we mentioned a little bit earlier on our Industry Advisory Council, or our IAC, where we actually went out and we spoke to industry and we asked them what is needed from the next batch of software developers. They've told us, and that's what we teach to our students. So therefore, we make you career and industry ready. You get a professional portfolio when you do the program. Of course, you have to work hard to get this. You do 4 major projects, but effectively these projects, as I hold out my hands, are what you show to potential employers. You say, this is how great I am. This is how good at coding I am. This is my problem solving skills. All of those things. That's what you get with your professional portfolio. We have unrivaled world-class support, 24 hours a day, 5 days a week for tutor support. We also offer weekend tutor support as well. We have an amazing student care team. We have mentors based all around the world. But then on top of that, we are university accredited. And that means that our program, it wasn't just thrown together. University actually sat down and looked at it and said, do you know what? This is great. We are now going to stand beside it and offer it a credit rating, right? That puts us on level 5 of the European qualification framework. But apart from that, right, because of this recognition and because of how good our program is, we're recognized by governments in Canada, the Ministry of Education in Ontario, Ministry of Communications in Singapore, Higher Education Authority in Sweden, Higher Education Authority in Ireland, and the list goes on and on. We're also working with universities in the USA and places like that as well. So our program is there and it will get you to your next career. Okay, let's move on from there. David, course options are part-time and full-time. I'll skip this slide because that's all it is. Bring us through the part-time option, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking about that just a moment ago. But with the part-time study option, the best way to think of it is the flexible study option. So as I said, we have weekly enrollments for that. The duration is anywhere from 16 to 52 weeks. And that is because we will create a custom schedule for you based on your individual ability to commit time. With that being said, though, it is still a structured, academic qualification. So there are expectations that our students will be able to commit a minimum of 12 hours per week to their studies on average. We understand some will be more, some will be less. Things like holidays are okay. But by committing to that 12-hour schedule, you would be on track to complete the course in 1 year. Anything above and beyond means you'll get through it sooner. the quickest you can really do it in is 16 weeks, which will require a commitment of about 50. That's 50 hours per week. And with the part-time option, you do get the 5 pillars of support that we talked about. Should go to the next one.
Yeah, sorry about that, Dave. Moving on to the next.
Okay, I'm not sure if I had control, sorry. So the next one there is our full-time study schedule. So as I said, this one does have set enrollment dates. It's very important to note, guys, that these are both remote online options. So the full-time one is not a classroom-based course. Our next intake for that is going to be April 20th, so coming up in almost exactly a month. I believe there are still 5 or 6 places available for that one. The full-time cohorts are capped at 10 students. And with this, you're getting a very, very structured study schedule where you will be committing 50 hours per week to your studies. That will include 2 stand-up sessions per day with the facilitator as well as other students on the course. And you're going to be expected to do some work in the evenings and on weekends, as well as that time during the day between the 2 sessions. With the full-time study option, you get the same 5 pillars of support, but you also have things like a weekly senior developer meeting. Your mentoring sessions are all going to be pre-scheduled. You'll have priority status with things like student care and the tutoring team. And this is all because we are asking a great deal of you on a daily basis. So the support is genuinely there at your fingertips. So this is a very, very intensive program, but it is absolutely without a doubt the fastest way to get from being a beginner to working in the industry in as little time as possible.
David, thank you so much. Okay, the application process itself. Now, just before you explain through this, I just want to tell everyone, generally the application process takes between, 2 and 5 days. Isn't that right?
Sorry, I muted myself there. That's exactly right. Just depending on every individual, it is something that we can have a pretty quick turnaround with, though. One of the first steps is that you will need to speak with an education advisor. So that's either myself or a member of my team. There is also a set of introductory coding challenges. Anybody who is applying to the course will be required to first complete those. This is for you as much as for us. It's going to give you some insight into how the course delivery works, help make sure that coding is something that you are genuinely interested in and would like to progress with. And it also shows us that anybody applying has the ability to progress onto the full qualification. Once those things are done, you would then be formally applying to the program through a digital application form where we really need to understand a bit more about your goals, your motivations, what's going to inspire you to complete a course like this. And once you do that, within 24 hours, we have a decision and or feedback from our program directors on your application and can hopefully formally offer you a place on the course.
Thank you again, David. Okay, we're going to go on to costs. Okay, the price for these programs are, for the part-time program, it's €5,900. For the full-time program, it's €7,900. Now, what I will say is there are finance options available depending on where in the world you are. We may have separate options there. For example, if you're in Sweden, you have access to CSN and things like that. If you're in the UK, you have access to Future Finance and other things like that. But Code Institute also has a payment plan. So don't let finance be a barrier. Don't let money be a barrier to doing this program. Get in touch with an education advisor. Either fill out the form that I'm hoping is popping up on the screen intermittently. Either that, or tomorrow or tonight you will receive an email from us with a link into where you can schedule a call with one of David's team, with one of the education advisors themselves. Okay, just my tip on that is don't let money get in the way of this. If you want to turn into a software developer, if you want to be one, just get in touch with us and we'll talk through it. Okay, moving on from that, 5-day coding challenge. I mentioned this a little bit earlier on. This is, in my opinion, I'm going to use an overused word, but it's a great word. This is awesome. Okay, many of you, you have texted in throughout the event. Some of you have no experience. Some of you have some small bits of experience in software development. 5-day coding challenge will teach you for free. It's completely free of charge. It'll teach you the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, day 1 and day 2, in my opinion, are going to be quite easy. Day 3 is going to become a proper challenge. You'll actually kind of go, oh, I need to think a lot more about this. But it's going to get you coding over 5 days. It takes generally an hour to an hour and a half per day over that period. Now, what it does is, first off, teach you some basics. Secondly, though, it also tells us whether or not you'd have the aptitude, and tell yourself as well, whether or not you have the aptitude for software development. The other thing as well, it shows us whether or not you'll be able to commit some time to actually doing this, which is hugely important. As David said, minimum of 12 hours a week to get through this program within 52 weeks. Now, after this event, either this evening or tomorrow, you will receive an email to effectively this challenge, but it'll be the all access challenge where you can do it all in one day if you wish. It depends on your situation at the moment. Okay, I'm going to move on from that. Oh, by the way, it's the whole theory behind it is you complete your first web page by the end of the 5-day coding challenge. Okay, and we teach you how to make a website based around how to make a cup of tea. My advice is take that with a pinch of salt. The whole idea there is effectively for us to present something to you as an example. So what I'd say to you is, if you're interested in making it about the site itself or the page itself, about anything else, obviously do that. We use how to make a cup of tea as an example. All right, we're on to question time. Billy Keenan, come back into the room and please ask us as many questions as you can. We'll give you maybe 6 minutes, which will bring us up to 51 minutes. Is that?
Yeah, that's great, Dar. Thanks very much. I think one or two people are just interested to hear about how the 5-day coding challenge works, when it starts, and can they work it into their schedule?
Okay, well, Billy, how about you take? Can I ask? Sorry, Dave. Can I ask Bill to take care of that one? If that's okay, Billy. Could answer
yeah, I suppose I probably should take this question, Dar, seeing as how I'm the one who looks after the 5-day coding challenge. But basically everyone, and I know you've used this word, the 5-day coding challenge is to give you an introduction to what coding is actually really like. And it's also to give you an introduction into how we teach coding as well. So it introduces you to our learning management system, as Dave and Jane mentioned. It also introduces you to our lecturers as well. So you'll actually see how we teach the material itself. But what's really important about the 5-day is it shows you what a boot camp is like, what learning online is like. Can you do it in the morning on your lunch break after you put the kids to bed? How does it work in and around your schedule? So the challenges go live at 9:30 on Monday morning every week, and you can complete the challenges in your own time throughout the week. So if you miss a day on Monday, you can catch up again on Tuesday, or if you have a free day on Wednesday, you can leave everything to Wednesday and catch up then.
Excellent. Next question, Billy. You're doing a lot of talking at this point. I'm enjoying this. Could you throw some more questions our way, if that's okay?
Yeah. Dave, Juliana is asking, do we have different levels of the course or just the one course?
It is, really just the one course. So it is something that is going to be designed, as we said a couple of times, for somebody who is quite new and quite fresh to coding and software development. On the odd occasion, we will get somebody who has some experience who applies to the program because they might have a great deal of theory, but they might not have a portfolio, for example. So it can be tailored somewhat because it is flexible and it is online, but there is just the one university accredited qualification.
That's great. Ingrid is asking just to go back on the duration for the full-time course.
Yeah, absolutely. So the full-time course is 16 weeks, and those are going to be 16 consecutive weeks where you will be expected to commit 50 hours per week to your studies. Again, the next cohort begins on April 20th, exactly a month from now, and will run for those 16 straight weeks, full-time.
That's great. Susanna is just asking, I know I answered this, Susanna, but Dave can maybe add a little bit more. Susanna's asking what the minimum requirement is, how many hours a week you have to commit to studying.
Yeah, and actually that brings up another good point as well. So the minimum expectation for a time commitment is 12 hours per week. Again, that is on average. If you're on the flexible part-time course and you need to go on holiday, something comes up, some weeks are more hours, some are less. There's no issue with that as long as the average time commitment is there. One thing we didn't really mention is about actual requirements in terms of hardware and software for the course as well. So I'd like to just mention that quickly. Basically, you just need to have a laptop with at least 4 gigs of RAM and a stable internet connection. We will be asking you to use Chrome as your web browser, and I highly, highly recommend anybody on the course get a second screen and a second monitor as well.
That's brilliant. One for you, Dara. Someone's asking about Java. We've heard you mention Python, but do we teach Java?
No, we don't actually teach Java on the program at all. We have chosen Python as a language for a few reasons. One of which is we've mentioned a couple of times our Industry Advisory Council, or IAC, right? And they advise us as to what's needed in the industry right now. And they reckon that Python is needed within the industry. Like, we're living in a day where we talk a lot about blockchain, Bitcoin, Netflix, Google. We talk about YouTube. We talk about all these things. And all these things use Python, as well as other languages and technologies as well. But they use an awful lot of Python. So effectively, we teach Python #1 for that reason. It's in demand right now. The next reason is It's an easier language to teach, and it's an easier language to learn. Now, that's not me saying that it's easy. No, there's still a lot of thought process that has to go into it, but it is easier to learn than Java, and it's easier to teach as well because it reads like English. So the example I often give is Python. If you know that term hello world, which is one of the first terms on the internet, okay, you can write that in one line. It says hello world, and you could see what that looks like on the interweb, on the internet itself. Whereas if you were to write that same 2 words, hello world, and put it out in Java, you're effectively looking at 3 or 4 lines of coding text. I suppose the best way to explain it is after this event, if you go online and Google it, hello world in Python, hello world in Java, you'll see what I'm talking about there. Good question, though. It's a really good question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And one quick note there, Billy, sorry to jump in. It is really important to note as well that some of our graduates' first jobs might actually be working with a language like Java. Once you have the foundation and the logic of a programming language like Python, employers are well aware that it is not a huge gap to cross to get to other programming languages as well.
That's
and can I add to that? Sorry, Billy, can I add to that? If that's okay. David, you're so right there, and you're dead right. And me and you often talk about this. I suppose the advice that I'd give to anyone who's starting out as a software developer, and as indeed for any role, it's always be learning. So you can have a full, happy career in Python if you want, and that's amazing. But when you get into that role, when you settle into it a couple of years down the road, my advice to everyone is learn more. Go out and learn other languages as well. So in the future, I absolutely advise looking at other languages too. But get into it with Python, build a career in Python, and then take it from there. Sorry for interrupting, Billy.
No, that's fine. I think we gave that one a good go. Jane, just one question for you. Someone is asking about what kind of jobs some of our graduates are working in now. What are the titles, where they've gone to work?
Yeah. So the titles obviously, like some of them go on to be junior full stack developers. Some of them get more specialized in either front or back end. A lot of them also kind of go into what I call, rightly or wrongly, kind of bridging roles, that they'd be kind of partial development roles. So they could be developing kind of maybe 50% of the time and then doing something else, like a consultancy role, 50% the rest of the time. One really good side for this, it's one of many, but HubSpot, most people listening will be familiar with, even if they haven't worked in tech. So HubSpot hire very often our graduates because they love that they're coming from some sort of work experience that they're bringing with them, but they have these tech skills, so they make really good consultants and kind of tech support employees. So that's a really good example of how you can kind of step into it. One thing I would just say is that the ethos, the Hubway Through the course is like code first, so it's really practical. It gets you really career ready, and my team and I, like, our aim is to maintain that through your career search. So it's, there's your first role, but we would really encourage you to be exploring long-term opportunities as well and getting to really understand the industry. Don't think your first job in this industry is your last job as well. There's plenty more that you'll get used to.
That's fantastic, Jane. And then one last one for you, Dave. One question here. Someone's asking, you mentioned CSN. What's the kind of process for applying to CSN? Do they come to
lost Billy there?
Nope, I heard the question.
Could you ask that again, Billy?
Yeah, Dave. So someone is just asking if they're interested in CSN, do they come to us first or to CSN? Yeah,
so the first step in the process would certainly be to speak with Code Institute. So we do have a relationship with CSN as well as a process in place. This is for any of our listeners at the moment that are located in Sweden. So the first thing we would do is have a conversation with you to understand if you're eligible to apply for CSN. You would then go through Code Institute's application process. Once we are able to formally offer you a place on the course, we then provide all of the documentation required to apply to CSN. It's important to note you have not committed to anything at that point. We do understand that it might be dependent on getting that CSN approval as well.
That's fantastic. That's it for questions at the moment, guys. I think everyone's satisfied so far, hopefully.
Cool.
Oh, I think Dara's left. So, guys, I will be on the live chat for another few minutes to answer any questions that come in. But after that, thanks very much for tuning in from home for our Lunch and Learn session. It's been a pleasure talking to everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Billy.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Everybody. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye now.